The NHL has been around for over a century now, giving us over a century of seasons and champions. Whatever team you're a fan of, you likely enjoyed watching some seasons more than others. That's all subjective. However, there's also an objective side which can be derived from how much enjoyment and turnout the general hockey fan base submitted. Regular seasons are pretty standard for the most part, but playoffs are a whole different animal as their parities are much higher, leaving more room for unpredictability. Having interacted with many hockey fans from social media and real life, there's certainly some playoffs that we as hockey fans enjoyed more than others, regardless of whether or not the teams we cheered for were in the spotlight or not. Judging by case-by-case context, how the games play out, and timings of these respective playoffs, we'll be ranking the last 10 from 2025 back to 2016. There's various things such as storylines, tension, and overall parity levels that elevate or descend the excitement for watching said playoffs. There will certainly be some backwards rationalizing my rankings as well, depending on if there were any significant mitigating factors or not. Without further ado, let's get ranking. Last place is the 2023 playoffs. If anything, this playoff was what made me realize that there are some playoffs that just aren't as worthwhile watching as others. This is the first playoff where I genuinely had trouble staying awake watching the games past the first round. Look, I get it can be boring having the favorites win every series, but these upsets were way overdone. Panthers, Kraken, it's great that their fans are seeing their franchise breaking out, but I'd be lying if it didn't take away from my enjoyment watching these playoffs. Ideally, people want to watch matchups of best against best, and we just didn't get enough of that at these playoffs. Not to mention the Panthers were clearly riding off of godlike performances by Bobrovsky and Tkachuk, and it didn't help either that Vegas made it look like they didn't belong. Oh yeah, even though we love to hate on Leafs, who finally bumped their playoff slump, we can't disregard either that the Panthers kept getting lucky calls against them. Across the board, there weren't many other series either that really pulled you into the moment. I'm sorry. Ninth place is the 2025 playoffs, the most recent one. I do feel kind of bad for this one as the 2023 playoffs, being as bad as they were, did contribute to the snooze fest that was the 2025 playoffs as well. The first round was meh, but there were too many series that ended too quickly and it gives us fans less enjoyment overall. The fact that a playoff anomaly like Ottawa survived the longest in their series just takes away from the tension and suspense. Overall, there's also too many results from previous years of identical matchups, especially past the second round, as it just felt like receiving the same Christmas gift over and over again. The trend also continues with the league's favorability for the Panthers, who seems to be put above other teams. The only thing that puts this above 2023 is McDavid chasing his cup and Canada's first in over 3 decades. Even then, the finals got stale pretty quickly and the viewership shows it. I contemplated about skipping the finals, and that's how bad this playoff was. Next up is the one that went off the rails, which was the 2020 playoffs. This is definitely the most unique scenario out of all, but we can't deny that there were teams that were positively or negatively affected by those circumstances. The Hawks, Habs, and Coyotes were way out of the playoff race at the time and got saved. The Bruins certainly got screwed as it was their cup to lose at the time of the pause. I do think the 5-month reset that the league got disturbed the trajectory of where each team was destined. The seeding was just kind of weird overall, as to this day, this bracket still doesn't make sense whatsoever. I would have also liked to see some longer series as well, like how we got with the Avs and Stars and Flyers and Isles. 7 of the 15 series ended in just 5 games. Going back to normality, we have the 2017 playoffs. It's here where the flaws of the divisional seeding started to form. The 3rd-seeded Jackets A faced the 2nd-seeded Pens, creating a matchup between the 2nd and 4th best team in the league in the first round, and B had more points than the 1st-seeded Habs from the Atlantic. One team that grossly benefited was the Ottawa Senators, who, no offense to their fans, just had a boring playstyle that was easy to pick apart if every piece wasn't performing unsustainably well. They likely lose to Columbus, which is who they would have faced in the first round if it was still 1 through 8 disregarding division. You can't forget about this phantom blown call in the finals too, which won the Pens Game 6 and ultimately the cup. This playoff is far from all doom and gloom, as you did have Craig Anderson wanting to win for his cancer-diagnosed wife, the emergence of the Nashville Predators, and Canadian teams bouncing back from 2016 where none of them qualified. I really wish I could rank the 2024 playoffs higher, given how much of a jump in playoff viewership they had from 2023, but it is setting the bar pretty low, sadly. There were a lot of electrifying moments in these playoffs, with many overtime games filled with tension, especially the finals, as I didn't feel like I could skip any game and would watch all of them if I could. What stifles these playoffs in the rankings, however, was the Caps getting in over the Wings, even though the latter was a better team across the board. And above all else, which degraded the 2025 and 2023 playoffs, was again, the Panthers just getting away with things that other teams couldn't. I think they can win without outside help, but come on, it just leaves a taint on the runs they've been on. Fifth place is the 2019 playoffs, and it's another one I could have ranked higher, but it having a common theme too with many upsets like the 2023 playoffs was why it was dragged down. Admittedly, we have a lot of opportunities for best on best matchups taken away, but that's not to say teams like the Avs, Jackets, Stars, and Canes didn't put on some shows either. There was not a single matchup I didn't think was going to be boring. Even the Tampa-Columbus one, which everyone got utterly wrong, at least thought the Jackets weren't going to get blown out every game. That Cinderella St. Louis story, where they were last in the league in January, was awe-inspiring and a good lesson for everyone to take that it's not over till it's over. That wasn't without controversy though, as this missed call was arguably the turning tide of the series. We also saw many lower-seeded teams cementing themselves on the Stanley Cup radar for the coming years like the Avs, Canes, Stars, and Isles, who all impressed. At fourth is the 2021 COVID playoffs, which I myself am surprised ranked this high. I can give a pass for the bad viewership as everything was screwed over during COVID. Every series besides the Avs Blues one, I felt a lot of tension and suspense watching. Even though the Jets swept the Oilers, there were 3 overtimes and the latter was just truly unlucky in that respect. There was some controversy regarding purely divisional placement, but that was balanced out with some divisions clearly being more competitive than the others. I do think Montreal had a tougher draw against other Canadian teams. I do think the Rangers make it in over the Preds if the East and Central were combined. Regardless though, the aforementioned Habs were on a bit of a last dance, being potentially the last seasons of Price and Weber, and they did make the most of it, getting past 3 heavily favored opponents in the Leafs, Jets, and Knights, making it one of the most memorable underdog runs ever. For all the circumstances this playoffs faced, it absolutely delivered. Man oh man, 2016. Looking back, those were really some simpler times and the playoffs only complemented that. In my opinion, out of the last 10 playoffs, these ones had the closest series and it had no sweeps and only 4 series that lasted 5 games. At any point in each series, no team was truly out of it and I love it. Even for the Pens, not any point of any series were fans confident that they'd win, with the exception of the Rangers series. That being said, the 2016 Pens don't get the respect they deserve, as they did seem like the 2022 Avs in a way, thriving off speed, depth, and outright dominating puck possession. These playoffs also did signal a changing of the guard in the playoff landscape as the Blackhawks dynasty started declining, and it was the last time Detroit made the playoffs. The only thing that prevents this playoffs from being better than it already was the lack of Canadian teams, but hey, if 16 American teams are all better than all 7 Canadian teams, playoffs got a playoff. Taking the silver medal is the 2022 playoffs. From the outside looking in, it felt like any team can create a series against any team. Nashville won the season series against Colorado. Dallas seemed fading, but had way more experience than the Flames. Washington had 16 more points than the 9th place Islanders. Every series was worth watching. Coming out of the COVID lockdown, this playoffs did a phenomenal job of reigniting fans' thirst for the NHL by casting an absolute blast of a playoffs. This playoffs, at least in my opinion, had the most contenders in the Avs, Panthers, Blues, Bolts, Canes, and Flames, further increasing fan entertainment. It also gave birth to one of the best champions ever in the 2022 Avs, which even though they ran away with every series, were also one of the most likable teams ever, and it created the perfect storm. There were just so many unique, diverse playoff matchups we haven't seen in a while, which made this experience all the more delicious, just chills all over. And now, with the crown of the last decade, the 2018 playoffs. Oh man, every aspect of these playoffs was top tier. The tension, the feistiness of matchups, the storylines, emergence of teams, and the downfall of teams. There's nothing bad I can say about this playoff. The energy was guns and blazes from the start and it stayed like that. Every series, I was on the edge of my seat. The Avs, Jets, Bruins, and of course the all-memorable expansion Vegas Golden Knights burst onto the scene. Onto the Knights, I'm willing to make an exception here for the finals being short. On one hand, you had the Knights getting a chance to make history as the NHL's first expansion team to win the cup as an underdog. I thought I'd throw that in as well. On the other hand, Washington was playing with that hunger and drive never seen before, overcoming a 2-0 series deficit heading into Columbus, exercising the demons against Pittsburgh, and then casted a roller coaster of a series against Tampa where there were endless momentum shifts. It seems like Washington would have rather died on the ice than to experience disappointment again. I'd kill someone to watch a playoff like the 2018 one all over again. Being 14 at the time, I remember getting emotional when Ovi threw the cup up. With the 2018 playoffs over, it was like a sad goodbye to a bestie. Hoping sometime in the near future we can get that arc with McDavid and Draisaitl hoisting Lord Stanley. Wouldn't mind seeing Ovi win another either to cap off his career passing Wayne Gretzky in goals. And that, everyone, is my rankings for the last 10 playoffs. I'm speaking from an objective stance with no bias for or against any team in particular. The 2023 playoffs, for example, I could understand that Panthers or Devils fans enjoying them, but league-wide, the rhetoric was different. From a broad perspective, this is how much I enjoyed watching each playoff. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.